Hey, what's up you guys? I just wanted to make a short video on body fat redistribution for trans men because I'm in my 8th month right now and I have gone on such a journey with this, and I just want to let pre-T guys know what to expect. I have to start off by saying, of course, it's different for everybody, and I also want to explain that there is not enough research, not enough communication and awareness of what transitioning is like for plus size people, and I can't really speak to that because I haven't been a plus size person my whole life. I mean, I'm a little chubby now, but honestly, like, that's not my space, and I highly encourage you to go and look at other content creators that are trans men that are plus size. I will tag some that I like in the comments or in the description, because they really, like, if you are trying to find somebody, like if you're plus size and you're trying to find somebody that can discuss what body fat redistribution is like for plus size people, definitely go check them out. I can speak to is just like the very average bodied person. I know that there are their own struggles that come for people that are super skinny or underweight with transitioning. That was not my experience, because even though I was very skinny and underweight most of my life, I gained a significant amount of weight right before going on testosterone, like probably like 30 pounds. So I was at a very average point, and so that's just what I can speak to. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about what happened for me. So whenever I first started testosterone, I was already feeling very insecure about my body. I've always felt very insecure about my butt and my boobs and just like the curviness of it, the shape of my hips, the wideness of my hips, how thick my thighs were, and they weren't like super thick. I always had a thigh gap and everything, but to me it was very feminine and I hated it. Now, I also always had a very flat stomach, like no stomach fat at all. My fat just didn't distribute there at all before going on testosterone. Even whenever I did gain a lot of weight, and I was probably like 185 pounds whenever I started testosterone, I really didn't have a belly, honestly. Some chubbiness on my cheeks a little bit, but I had a very thin face, and I was very chiseled, in the most feminine way that you could be, because I wasn't on testosterone, but I had no double chin at all. Like, I appeared as a very skinny person, just very curvy. I mean, I got compliments on my body all the time. Like, I wasn't bullied or anything. And a lot of people think that trans men transition because, they think that they're so ugly as a girl, and they would just, no one's gonna think they're pretty anyway. That was not the case. Like, I had like the ideal female body before I started transitioning. The most noticeable thing that you're gonna see in like the first 8 months or so is you're going to be very bloated. What happens whenever you are going from estrogen to high testosterone levels like that is you will retain so much water weight, and a lot of people freak out. I freaked out. I've always had insecurities with weight gain in my body, so I freaked out about my face getting chubbier, and I have like some double chin going on. My stomach got bloated, so like for the first time I had a belly, and I freaked out. But honestly, it is temporary. I've already noticed it slimming down on my face a little bit. It's temporary. It's just part of the process. That water weight will flush out, and you can speed up that process if you want to by drinking a lot of water, and I do highly recommend that just for other reasons. There are more long-term, long-lasting fat redistribution effects that you're going to see even within the first 8 months. So we're gonna get a little bit TMI here. We're gonna be talking about boobies and butts, and I'm gonna be saying those words, so if you don't want to hear that information, go ahead and stop watching now. But my boobs feel like they deflated. Like, they literally feel like they deflated. I was probably like in between a size C and a D cup. I had some pretty good tits. Like, I really did. They were very average, but they were good. They were perky. They were very firm. Now they are very soft. They are like literally squishy. Like, it's weird. It's a strange texture, but they are disappearing, and honestly, I'm happy about it. Probably one of the best things that's happening to me right now is my thighs and my butt are also getting so much smaller. And these aren't things that I really pay attention to, because typically I try to not like pay attention to those parts of my body because they bring me so much discomfort. But I like grabbed my ass one time, like when I had like nothing on, like in the bed, and I was like, where the fuck is my ass? Like, it was just gone. It was just gone. Like, I'm still thick. I'm still very thick, and it still is kind of what makes me clockable, but it's significantly less. And just like the shape of my butt changed. It's not so like wide bubble butt birthing hip type ass. Like, it's just more like rectangle shaped. Like, it's more masculine, and I am so happy about it. But as people staring at my butt less in public and stuff, which is like already like cool, like already being less over sexualized. Like, that's just, I guess, kind of a random perk. That's not a reason to transition, obviously. I'm transitioning because I'm trans, but I've noticed that. But it also makes me feel better because it makes me feel like they're not like looking at my butt to see if I'm a girl or a boy, because I'm so confusing. They just like don't look as much. They still look. They're always gonna look. I'm always gonna have a good butt, probably. This is something that can be triggering. It's definitely triggering for me, for people that have body image issues or like eating disorder history, but the fat has to go somewhere. So the fat that was in my chest and in my butt and my thighs, also my thighs have gotten thinner as well, and my calves, it goes to your stomach. So people who have high levels of estrogen, their weight tends to be carried in the lower back and in the butt. But people who have high testosterone, your weight is carried in your stomach. So it is traveling there. And I have a tummy. I have a stomach. Like, this is new to me. Like, growing some hair on my stomach too, and it's just like manly as fuck, honestly. Like, it does give me a boost of euphoria, but then like my ED brain and like my insecurities like start coming up as well. So it's hard to deal with that, but that's something that you've got to be aware of, because I feel like nobody talks about it. Probably a lot of it is still water retention. I can tell that my face is still retaining a lot of water, so I'm sure it will go down. And then also I could always work out and eat better. I feel like, you know, on social media, the only trans guys that go viral are the ones that start working out as soon as they go on T and they're like super fit. But what about the guys that don't work out all the time? Like, I will go through periods where I work out really, really hardcore for like a couple months, and then I just fall off the wagon for a couple months and I eat like shit and I don't work out. And I've been trapped in this cycle for years and years and years, and that's pretty normal. That's a pretty normal thing. Probably most trans men are doing that. So let's talk about what you're gonna look like if you're not a gym rat. Let's talk about it. As your fat is redistributing and moving towards your stomach, your muscles are going to get more defined. You also can gain muscle very easily. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, just do some bicep curls with some weights, like a little bit every day, and you'll be like, holy crap. Like, you can gain muscle very easily and quickly on T. But if you don't keep up with it, it just goes back to being squishy. So I've noticed that fat is going to my biceps very easily. I've heard that like your forearms get skinnier on T. I'm not really sure why, and I think the fat is traveling up my arms, which is kind of nice because it makes my shoulders more broad and it makes me seem more broad. But then I'm also insecure of like the flabbiness underneath my arm. But I do think that is a pretty easy fix if you keep up with working out and if you keep up with lifting and you eat healthy. But that's just one of the places that the fat goes. It's scary for trans people to talk about this because we're gonna come off as detransitioners or whatever. Like, people are scared to talk about the bad things, but we need to talk about them. There are some moments and some days where I look in the mirror and I'm like, who am I? And it's just like, because I don't pay attention to my naked body. Most trans men don't. So the few times I will end up looking at myself, I'm like, oh, and like it's kind of disorienting. Sometimes I don't know if I would describe it as dysphoria, because it's like, well, I'm happy if it looks like a guy, but it's just kind of bizarre and uncomfortable. You know, part of it is a lot of trans men already have so many body image issues. They already have body dysmorphia, and issues with like their weight and stuff. So I think seeing my fat move to different places is very disorienting, and it triggers my dysmorphia, it triggers my dysphoria, and it's just a really weird, confusing experience. But so far, overall, my dysmorphia, or at least my dysphoria has greatly healed and improved. My dysmorphia is just complicated right now because I'm in the early stages. I'm only 8 months in, and your fat's doing weird stuff. So I know that this is probably going to be some of the hardest time that I have on testosterone. So just be aware of that. Once you're in like the middle of your first year, the end of your first year, beginning of your second year, it might be really hard for you to see your body changing like that if you have an eating disorder or body dysmorphia or like body image issues of any kind. It's just complicated, and you have to take it day by day and be patient with yourself. Be easy on yourself. Just because you feel like crap and you feel weird about these changes doesn't mean that you're not trans, doesn't mean that you're gonna regret it, doesn't mean that you're gonna freak out like 10 years down the road. Obviously, I'm not 10 years down the road, so I can't know if I will, but when you look at the overall picture, you do feel better. Dysphoria is getting better, so that's my experience. The most important thing, the best thing that has happened with body fat redistribution on testosterone is, okay, there was a time when I was feeling really bad about my stomach and everything, and I looked in the mirror and I turned around and I kind of looked at my back, and my back looked amazing to me. It was so like skinny and also buff, and no fat rolls, no nothing at all. Just my lower back, my mid to lower back slimmed down so much to the point that my back is like V-shaped. It was hot, honestly. I have a really hot back. So yeah, the fat's going to the front, to my stomach, but that was something that gave me horrible dysphoria, to the point that like, if I'm with a partner and I'm unclothed, not only do I not want them to see the front of me because of my chest, but I didn't even want them to see the back of me. So even if I'm like sitting on the bed and I'm like, you know, putting on my pants or whatever, and I have my shirt off, I'm horrified at I was horrified at the thought of somebody looking at my back. And now I'm not at all. Now I can turn my back and I feel okay with somebody seeing me naked from the back. And that's insane. That's just crazy to me. And honestly, I believe that if I got top surgery, and even if everything remained the same, and I got top surgery, I wouldn't care, you know, if my stomach was bigger or whatever. Like, I'm gonna have so much confidence. Like, I just wanted to tell y'all that story because even if there's things that you don't like about testosterone and the things that it's doing to you, that's okay. You're not gonna like everything. It doesn't mean that you're not really a guy or you're not really trans enough or whatever. But what you gotta do is you gotta look at the positives. You gotta focus on the good things. Like, yeah, I'm insecure about my stomach to a point, but my back, you know, like, you just gotta focus on the positive things. You really do have to have a positive mindset. I would say don't start testosterone if you're in a really, really bad place mentally. It's kind of like a good trip, okay? Like, if you're in a bad state mentally, whenever you go on testosterone, whenever you go on the drug, you might have a bad time. You might be triggered more easily. But if you're in a good enough place, and you're pretty hopeful and you're pretty excited, that's good enough. And you just gotta keep up with that positivity, and you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.